Let's start. Rejoice, the Lord is King, your Lord and King adore. So let's continue our worship on into the evening hours tonight.
Welcome back this evening. Let's open with a word of prayer. Randy, would you do that for us tonight as we start? Amen. We are glad that you're here tonight. Thanks for being back. We are going to roll right ahead, but we need to give you some announcements about things that are coming up. Primarily, there is a breakfast next Saturday morning. We hope you'll be available for that. It is at 8:30. We do not expect that would run past 10 o'clock, so we're going to kind of keep that, if it does, but not by much, in a very limited amount of time. But you can stay and chat and converse, but we'll have an opportunity to hear from our missionary, Dan Jalowick. And that will be next Saturday. Now you say, well, I haven't signed up. How do I let you know? Two things are going to happen. One, in your email, you're going to receive information about that as well as an opportunity to click and respond. Please do that at that time. Pastor Matt, I don't get anything from the church. I don't get any email. First of all, check your spam. I don't know why it should go there. We don't put anything that's spam worthy. But check it first. Just do a search, and if you don't know how to do that, we can help you with that. Secondly, if you've never gotten anything from us, check that little box right there, that QR code, or underneath it, and somewhere in that is the text to go there and sign up. We don't need a ton of information from you, but we do need a name, and we need your email address, and we will put you on that list. We try not to overflow you with information. How many of you got something from me Thursday this week? I'm looking who doesn't. Okay. How many of you watched it? The video. I got yeses in the choir. I like that. How many of you have no idea what I'm talking about? How many of you wondered why it was Thursday and not Friday? You did. I knew people would wonder. It's not Friday. Well, I had plans Friday morning, and I wanted to be very efficient, and I filmed it Thursday so that it could go out and you would have it for sure. The other things that are in the bulletin, Suncoasters will be meeting on Thursday this week. That's at 9 a.m., and they'll meet for their breakfast and all of that goes on. The Stitches of Love, the ladies will be putting together their package of completed items that they've been sewing, and they need your help in purchasing T-shirts. So if you're able to do that, either purchase small boys T-shirts or donate. I know several folks contributed to that this morning already. that they will be able to go out and purchase that. Next Sunday, same schedule, 9:30, 10:30, and 6 o'clock, and we'll hear from the Jalowicks. They will be coming down to this area to visit. And then notice Grow. That first stage of the reintroduction is going to be on the 28th. That's Tuesday morning at 9:45. And I know that you're looking at that and say, well, Pastor, we have other things that we get scheduled. I know that the ladies have their the ladies' lunches on Tuesday. We're going to fit that into the schedule, and it won't be a problem at all. On those days that the ladies do go to lunch, you'll be able to go with them, still go on visitation prior to that, and then head out with them afterwards. So take note of that. Now, so one thing, you're going to either see it on the email or look for it on social media, and we're going to put a link in there as well that you can respond and let us know that you're coming to breakfast on Saturday. It is not a men's prayer breakfast. Women are available, are options. What do you call it? Welcome. Couples are welcome. It is not men's prayer breakfast, it's missions prayer breakfast. I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want anybody saying, well, I can't go because you used to have men only. So it is for all of us. If you're able to go, please respond. Tonight, and I hope that you picked up on all of this ministry that Brother Dixon presented to us this morning, but it is new to us, and not just the particular ministry, but even the nature of the ministry is a bit new. Some of the missionaries that we've had through in the past have been at different stages, and what we've done on Sunday nights is kind of do some directed interview conversation so that we can hear more of some of the detail of that. And for those of you that remember, if a missionary was on deputation, we let them talk about what is that, because sometimes we don't remember that they're stepping out by faith and heading out onto the road to visit churches like ours or those who are coming back, and we try to find out about the nature of their ministry. Brother Dixon, you come ahead. I've given him this is the seat of honor here. It never got used a whole lot, and for that I'm grateful. If you remember the details behind it, I got that because I thought I was going to have to preach from then on, but then we didn't have services at all because of COVID, so it went into deep storage, and by the time we came back, they'd figured out what was wrong with, they'd figured out some of the things that was wrong with me. I was going to say that the choir has been, as they say, busting my chops tonight. So, yeah, you have. Don't look shocked. And so I thought I'd get out ahead of that. Hey, Brother Dixon, the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the transition from what you did to what you're doing. So you use terms, and I want people to hear this because I want them to know that if God's giving them a concept, an idea, a vision of something, what does that look like? How do you transition from what you had been doing for decades, pastoring a church, to something related but really different in its nature and far-reaching? What was that like? What was the first indication that post-pastoral ministry was going to look like this?
Well, I could sit here tonight and be very spiritual, and sound very spiritual, and very whatever word you. But can I just be practical with you? I don't know. No, I think the answer is, I've been in the ministry over 45 years. I've been saved for 61 years. I think as a pastor, as a Christian, I think the more decisions that we make and the more of the leading of the Spirit in our life that takes place, I think we begin understanding what God is doing when He's doing something. So much of the time, people only get saved when they have problems. Not a lot of people, they're making, several $1 million a year and just living life and say, hey, I think I'm going to get saved today. Usually they hit rock bottom, and God picks them up and puts them on a solid rock. And so with me, I was in college, and my father called me, and we had the conversation for the very first time of me coming to work with him. We had never talked about it before. It had never been inferred. It never discussed. I know some people, were amazed by that, but it's really true. We had never talked about it until November of my last year of college. And he said, our youth pastor's leaving. He calls me. Back then, you had a pay phone. You had to spend 25 cents. Some of you remember that. And no cell phones. And so he said, why don't you come back after graduation? And I had thought about doing some other things. I had some other churches that were going to talk to me, and I thought about maybe furthering my education. And I said to my father, well, let me pray about it. Now, I was really being spiritual then. Yeah. I didn't want to just give him a quick answer. I had to make him sweat a little bit. And so about 2 weeks later, I called him and told him that I would accept the position. Then after I was there for about 5 years, really about 4 years, I told the Lord spoke to my heart and said, I think you've ridden the last roller coaster with these young people. After 4 years, and he put it in my heart, I'd like to pastor. And so I went to my dad and I said, I think, in November or in May of next year will be my 5th year, finishing my 5th year as youth pastor, and I'm going to resign. I'm just telling you now, I'm going to resign. And if God opens the door for me to pastor, that's what I would like to do. Long story short, a month before I was going to resign, this church came open that I had only been in one time on the west side of Indianapolis. And long story short, I took the church. And then I left there after 2.5 years. And it was a great ministry. We had, just people saved and baptized, and the church tripled, and our little Christian school tripled. And but my father needed help with the finances, and so I realized that I couldn't do both because I did both for 6 months. And so God just kind of took it out of my heart where I was, and that's kind of the way this situation was. He just he began taking not my love for the church, because I still love the church and the people, and they've been so gracious and kind to me and supported our families through the years. But you just, when you know, you just know. And he began taking my desire away, I think. And so I made that change, and it was a tough change.
Would you say that happened as he gave you a different directed desire then for what you're doing now? I mean, this is obviously a passion if you've spent that much time and energy in doing it.
It took us 7 years to transition out.
Okay.
Or 7 years, 7 months to transition out. And so during that time, I'm sure I went through a lot of different things. A lot of the things everything really that I'm doing now, I was doing before I left the church. And they were really kind of my ministries, the things that I just began doing. It was urban youth ministry, or, we were doing the church planning through the church, obviously. But, we started 7 years ago with no money in the bank, ministerially, no place to preach, and just said, Lord, we'll give it all to you if you'll bless what we're trying to accomplish. And he's just taking care of us every moment of the way.
And you sit here in a different role than most folks that come and sit here, because they're the ones that are leaving the States or preparing to leave the States, and they're going to establish a work on the field. Your role is markedly different than that. What do you see your role? If someone asked you, well, what do you do? What do you see your role as?
Well, I told the pastor this morning that I see myself more as a spiritual entrepreneur. I told him, I said, I like business, budgets, and big events. The in-between stuff I get bored with. But I like business, budgets, and big events. And so my whole ministry kind of has centered around those three things. And now I get to do business things, if you will. I buy and sell properties. I have two partners. We flip houses. We do a lot of different. I'm always looking for revenue streams to fund God's work and to fund what we're doing. And so there's just a lot of different things. I oversee the mowing of 50 yards throughout the entire state of Indiana.
When you oversee means that you never touch a mower.
I never touch a mower.
Check.
I haven't cut the grass in 50 years, my brother.
How many of you would agree the best way to do that is to oversee the mowing of the lawn? I would. In Florida, I'll tell you, if you're considering any time down here, that's a task in and of itself. Well, I was thinking about that as you talked just now. The Apostle Paul, and don't let this go to your head, but the Apostle Paul in his ministry was a very hands-on missionary, pioneering missionary, leaving Antioch and going where he went. But you find him at times having to do more than one job, establish a church, or go back and reinforce a church, or train a young man like Timothy or Titus to do the work, and he fills all those different roles. But at times, he fills this role of raising funds for needy believers in Jerusalem, and he goes to the churches. And I don't know if we were to ask Paul, maybe we will someday, was that your burning desire to be a fundraiser? He probably viewed it as a necessity, but whether that was his giftedness or not, he realized that was a necessity. I mean, that's the world we live in. It would be great if we all just clicked our fingers and said, hey, you want to go? You're trained. You have a burden? Head on out. But we all know that takes funds. And so maybe in that capacity, you're filling that role of not just raising it, but encouraging others to do as well.
Yeah, when I was 17 years old, I believe God called me to preach. That's why, whether I was good or bad at it, he called me, so I just needed to do it as long as someone would show up and listen. And if I struck out one Sunday morning, I always got another Sunday morning to come back and try to hit a home run. And so that's the wonderful thing about the ministry. So God called me to preach, and as long as I get to preach, then Monday through Saturday, as long as I can serve the Lord and bless others, I really don't care what I do. And I've always kind of been like that. I was a youth pastor. I was jail chaplain for a year at the Marion County Jail. I was a pastor. I was a business manager for 17 years of the church, school administrator, school principal for 6 years. I had 3 offices. I was running around, in my 30s, like a chicken with its head cut off. But I had the energy to do it, in my 30s. I took care of probably 40 mission conferences and raised all the funds and raised millions of dollars for missions through the years. And I just love serving the Lord. And as long as I can preach on Sunday, I just love serving the Lord. So whatever the local church needed, if I could step in and take something that was unsuccessful and make it successful, that's what I enjoy doing.
So let's touch on something that you just mentioned with regard to the church's missions and where this perhaps grew out of, and we'll ask a specific question about that. But one of the things I think we can draw from this, he talked about faith this morning in the 10:30 service. And for some of you, I talked with somebody this morning, completely unrelated to this. It was just the natural timing of it about, hey, I had this conversation, and it really pushed me. They used the term a divine push. And I said, I like that. Let's write that down. That God may be directing me to pick this up and do this or to minister people in this way. And I really want to encourage you because I don't think that's unique. I don't think that should just be for, people who come and speak about things. I think the Lord is speaking to a lot of people about things that could be done or things that you could do, or he's gifted you with something, or he's just burdened you with it. And it may require faith. And, I appreciate that you said you're not receiving funds from it. You're not raising funds for yourself. So that has to take some type of, lawn mowing and house flipping aside. It takes a measure of faith to say, this is what we'd like to see done. How do we get from here to there? And I just want to encourage you guys to use it kind of as an example to say, why not me? I have a vision of something that could be from scratch, or something that could be supported, or something that could be, a communication with people doing the ministry. I mean, there's a range of stuff. I want you to see that it may take a step of faith, but it's in your capability. If God's calling you to do it, it's well within your reasonableness to do it. So I didn't preach today, so you knew that was coming again. So, Brother Dixon, you talked about you pastoring a church in a variety of fashions. And the church was, you had missions conferences, so you supported missionaries, you sent missionaries, you were aware of missions and all that. You mentioned today that the church planting centered around Indianapolis where you were, and then Oaxaca, Mexico. So I'm just curious, what is that connectivity that was one of the first and maybe the most thriving or long-standing ministries that were going?
Probably about 2008, I was introduced to Oaxaca, Mexico. From 2001 to 2008, and even before then, we were always involved in missions. We, giving to missions, building buildings on the mission field for missionaries, taking mission trips, whether it's our youth or our adults, or going and building a building with our men. We did that a number of times. What was your question?
Oaxaca, is there?
Oaxaca,
Yeah.
Oaxaca. And so we were in Haiti, we were in England, we were various places. But I had a friend that was doing mission work, and he said, why don't you go with us to Oaxaca, Mexico? Had never heard of it in my entire life. And so I went down there about 13 years ago, and I think I flew in my first year, and we went to the mountains of Zaragoza, and that was in the state of Oaxaca. And then I flew out of Oaxaca and went home. Then my second year, I flew into Monterey, met the same team, and we drove for 7 days every day and had a service every night in a different town from Monterey all the way down through Mexico City, all the way down to the bottom of the country of Oaxaca, the state of Oaxaca. Did that for 7 days, preaching a different church every night, drove all day. I was worn to a frazzle. It was a hard trip. And the federal police only stopped us once. We were out at midnight. Shouldn't have been. That was silly. But they, pulled us out of the car and made sure we didn't have any drugs and, let us go on. But that was, so I've been going for about 13 years now and have met some wonderful people. And the national leaders that we're still working with, we met 13 years ago, the Baptist pastors there. And so we've had them to Indianapolis twice. We've hosted them in our home. We're going to be doing it again for one of the men here this summer in June again. And just wonderful, wonderful men, really great guys. And just everything, I didn't tell the story this morning, but the first time we went, we had a church planter, a Hispanic church planter in Indianapolis. We went to Santo Domingo outside of Oaxaca City. We knocked on his sister's door. She didn't know we were coming. Long story short, 5 generations of women, no men anywhere. 5 generations of women. And we didn't stay there, but we visited over about a 3-day period, different brothers and different men and grandsons and just different people, family members came, and we witnessed to them for about three days. We ate with them and drank with them and fellowshiped with them, shared the gospel. Some of them got saved. This was on our second trip. And we found some water and a big thing of water, and we baptized some of them. And then found a Baptist pastor in town to come and hold a Bible study. Then we started a church there. And from that one knock on the door, that first church started, and some 230 cents have started. And so, and I think going back to your original question is, we just have to be led of the Lord. He does take He changes our desires, and we just need to have a desire to serve the Lord. And whatever door opens, just walk through the door. Don't shut the doors that God opens. Let God shut the doors. If He doesn't shut them, just keep walking through them and do whatever's on the other side of it. And that does take faith, and it takes desire, it takes determination, it takes some consecration. You can't give up, can't quit. You just, do we enjoy serving God? If we do, just keep walking through those doors.
Yeah, He's more than capable of closing them. If we're in an earnest desire to serve Him and we're moving forward, He's more than capable of either redirecting us or shutting it down. Sure.
He does.
So we talk about that, and that was good because I think you've sort of led into the other question we wanted to cover, which is, what does this look like? We're talking about 500 churches in the coming year, and how many have been built. We're not talking about, obviously, we've determined you're not going there and in all these places, planting seeds, winning people, baptizing them. You have people that do that. You have nationals that do this. This is very much a national driven, operated ministry, correct?
Yes, very, very grassroots. We don't build buildings. I don't have enough money to feed the world. I don't have enough money. I get requests almost every single day. Africa, Asia, Latin America, India. Oh, India, goodness. They want money for a conference. They want money for a vehicle. They want money for gas.
I get those from India, and I don't even know the people. I'm serious. You're right. I get emails. I don't even know who they are.
I wrote a guy back the other day and said, "What do you want? I don't even know what you want. You give me 5 things. What do you want?" Well, just do something. But they're desperate.
Yeah.
They are, and he's probably genuine.
Yeah.
But and then what they do is they go through and then they add all my friends on Facebook.
That's how I get the emails.
And then they start going after them and their money. And I tell people, don't send anything. Don't send anything. I don't even send anything. We work through the pastors, the missionaries, the national missionaries and pastors. And if they're legitimate, then, we want to try to help them. But there's scams everywhere, and you need to save your money. I met a guy the other day at a church. He was ready to send $6,000 to a guy. Didn't know him from the man in the moon. But we're bleeding hearts.
Yeah.
We have tender hearts.
Yeah.
We want to help people. But I told him, I said, who's going to feed those orphans next month?
Yeah.
And who's going to feed them the month after that? And it's not going to take $6,000 to do it.
Yeah.
Believe me, he could use that for the next 20 years, $6
Yeah.
grand. to feed.
It's the unfortunate truth of, people
Yeah.
with the system.
So you don't want to feel heartless, but we are to be good stewards.
Yeah.
And sometimes a steward has to say no.
So you work with national pastors, but in identifying that, you also work with established missionaries on the field and pastors that have growing works, thriving group works that want to expand, and that's kind of sometimes where your ministry comes in. So we were talking about it at lunch. One of our missionaries in Colombia, Jonathan Saliba, they sent out. Well, tell about you sending out contact or questionnaires and.
I contact missionaries that I have confidence in, and so like this Jonathan Saliba, there in Colombia, I contacted him, and he contacted me back, and he has two or three men in Colombia that need help, need some support, and then there's some other missionaries. They sent me to Spain, and they sent me to they all have contacts. I don't live there. I don't have the contacts necessarily, but they do. And so these men that are called and trained and sent by the local church, then we come along and provide some funds for them.
And so those funds, do you have not necessarily restrictions or qualifications on what they do with it? Is every church different? Some of them are using it to support a family to get things going, or to purchase supplies, or to rent a place, or is that a broad range of things, or very specific?
Yes, there are no strings attached at all. We give them $50 a month for 1 year to start a church in some remote place of the world. And if they want to use that to eat, if they want to use that to buy some gasoline, or buy some rice to feed their family, or use it for the church in some way, as long as they are starting a new work, there are no strings attached.
So a lot of that vetting is done then by the established pastor or missionary on the field already.
Yes. They have to have, their local church and their local pastor has to approve them and send them. Because it's the local church that starts local churches.
Right. So what does that look like? You still have connections with those that are sending out of their churches. You have a short-term commitment to them. Is there any renewable nature of that? I mean, some of them say after the first year, hey, we could really use it again. Is that a possibility? Is there a way to check up on them? What do we know after that year?
Every single one of them needs to be supported for the rest of their life.
Sure.
And if we support them the rest of their life, they will take it the rest of their life. And so I tell them when we have these church planning events, I say, listen, because they ask that question. Mm-hmm. And I tell them, I said, I am a preacher. So let me tell you what I know about preachers. As preachers, you will take as long as you have finances to do what needs to be done. So if we give you a year, you'll take a year. If we give you 5 years, you'll take 5 years. However long we give them, that's what they're going to take. I said, you have 1 year. Now, if you want to turn your work over to somebody else and go start another one, we'll support you again, as long as you're starting a new work. And so we're just very honest and upfront with them, and we just say, we're working too hard to raise these funds to waste them. And so you've got 1 year to figure out. And sometimes we're their only support. Sometimes we just are a part of the whole. Many times their local church that's sending them, they'll give them, like in Mexico, they'll give them $100 a month. So we're giving them $50. Now they got $150. And they might be bivocational. I don't mind if they are. I am. So, why should I be bivocational and work and flip houses and take chances, and they're sitting somewhere, in the Philippines on a beach. I mean, I'm not doing that to make their life comfortable. I want them to start a church and spread the gospel, and the reason that I focus on the local church is because I believe the local church is the gateway to the everlasting blessings of God. Can I tell them what? It may not be true, but can I tell them what I believe?
if you're not sure it's true, I don't know that.
Well, I was trying to be humble. I was trying to give myself a way out just in case you disagreed with me.
I'll let them know later.
I believe the local church is the gateway to the everlasting blessings of God. I believe the local church leads to the judgment seat of Christ. I believe the judgment seat of Christ leads to the millennial kingdom. I believe the millennial kingdom leads to the great white throne judgment, where we're going to judge the world. And I believe that leads us to the New Jerusalem. I believe the local church is going to live in the New Jerusalem. I believe everybody else is going to live here on this earth, the renovated earth. So I love the local church. I emphasize the local church because I believe it's the gateway to the everlasting blessings of God.
Well, and practically speaking, that's the oversight on the field. That's the ones who are there for the long term. That's the ones to help them in times of distress, or to bring correction into their life, or support, or whatever that is, because they really can't be islands unto themselves, no matter how remote they are. They're going to need that mentally, spiritually, that support and encouragement from a local church too.
Well, it's easy to have a meeting and have lots of people saved.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with an evangelistic meeting, but it's easy. That's exciting. The hard work is that local church, and discipling, and working with people, and families, and problems and difficulties and their children. And you can have an evangelistic service, have lots of people saved, and in a couple of weeks you never see them again. But the local church, when they're reached through the local church, then there's something established, and something that's solid, and something that can continue for generations to come. So I'm looking at the long haul, not just a short fix.
So, and that's where we originated here, is what does that look like more times than not for a local church that's receiving the support for a year, someone starting a new work? Are they meeting in somebody's home? Is that different to different fields around the world, or do you see a common thread of what does that church look like? Because I think that when we say we're building a church, we're thinking about somebody raising walls, pouring a floor, putting in seats and all of that, rather than the people that make up that church. I don't know the answer to this one, so I'm going on a limb.
Well, this is a church building.
Right.
This is not a church. You are the church. This is just a building. And so we try to build churches, which is a New Testament assembly of scripturally baptized believers. And what they do after that is up to them. We have churches that have started, and like in Africa, they just meet in a thatch roofed hut. But there, where we're building the school, someone came along, some organization, and built them a building. Well, that's good. They spent their money. I didn't have to spend mine.
Yeah, well, you talked about that today. People want to give to something that is doing something that is successful.
And there are organizations that do that.
Sure.
I was in Kakata, Liberia, a few years ago. We had started a church there 6 months before, and we'd only invested $300 in it at that point. They took me there on a Sunday morning, and it was in this little town, and it was in a community center, and it was open all the way around, open community center. 120 after 6 months, 120 people showed up. 20 people got saved, and 15 surrendered to the ministry. And I'm thinking, what am I doing in America?
Yeah.
So, huts, buildings, brick buildings. We went to Pastor William, one of our first church planters in Liberia 7 years ago. And we went to his village, and they got word to their people that we were coming. Middle of the afternoon, 80, 90 people under trees. We had church. We had services. And so it looks different for everybody.
And along with the financial support, then you talked about traveling with Brother Snavely. And so there's an element, too, where there's equipping going on originally, and then, the connectivity to others on the field, nationals on the field, long-term pastors on the field, that can be a support for them. So there's an element of training them how to get that done if they really are desiring to start a church?
Yes. I think the reason that the way we do things have about a 98% success rate over the last 7, 8 years is because these men are called, these men are trained, they're sent by their local church, and then we come along and support them. I just got word yesterday from one of our national leaders. He's a church planner. He oversees the 50 men that we're supporting in Liberia through June of this year. We'll pick up another 60 in July of this year in Liberia. And he disperses all the funds, him and one other guy. And he just went to a new village. This was their first service. They had 36 saved this morning. Sent me pictures.
He got those at lunch as we just been seated, and
we get reports quarterly from everyone, whether it's India, whether it's Mexico, whether it's Africa. We get reports every single quarter from what each of these men are doing, how many were saved, how many were baptized, how many were in attendance. Not a lot of statistics, but the basics, so that we just have a little idea of what is going on and what is happening. Because, like I said, I work too hard to waste, the funds that we raise, and being a good steward over what New Testament Baptist Church might give to advance. I'm responsible to be a good steward, not only over my personal money, but over the monies that you give to God's work. And so I'm very cognizant of how important that is.
That was the other question I was going to ask, was with regard to the church that you heard a report from today that it just started. And I think I covered what we were going to. Let's open it up for just maybe a couple that you would want to expound on, something we talked about tonight or something you heard this morning that you want to hear direction or concepts or specifics. David?
Yes and no. If you go to my website and click on the link Alliances at the top, we have 50 to 60 different groups that we're working with in one way or another, or groups that are supporting us, different groups in these countries that we have a global alliance with to help them start churches. So you'll be able to see every single group that is involved with us and us with them. It began in inner city Indianapolis, and really was word of mouth. People would call me and say, "Hey, I hear you want to help start a church. I'd like to start a church." And we would help them get a building and help them get some chairs and help them get some song books, and we'd give them a little money for support for a little while, and 24 churches later in Indianapolis, it just kind of word of mouth. Then different men from the church, because we really emphasized it and promoted it, different men from the church started some of our Hispanic churches. One man last week just surrendered to go to Peru, and he was in my youth group back in the 70s, and he married a Peruvian, and he is going to be staying with her family there in Peru, and and so that's kind of how it started in Indianapolis. And then I got invited to go to Oaxaca, and then we get involved with other groups. There's a National Baptist Convention down there that we have worked through, and the two main pastors that we work with are kind of associated with that group, and so we've worked through them. Bruce Snavely, Dr. Bruce Snavely has the Global Baptist Training Foundation. I've done most of my work with him. He lives in Vieira, Florida, near Melbourne, and we were in school together in 1976, but I never met him until 7 years ago. But I knew his wife, and his wife's father was my professor at Baptist Bible College, and we got associated, and so he's in Rwanda this week, teaching about 25, 30 men. He just got back from Uganda 2 weeks ago, teaching about 40 or 50 men. In January, he just got back from Liberia, and he was there for 2 weeks, and he taught about 40 men in one area and about 90 to 100 in another area in Bonga. And so I've been there 5 times, I think 5 or 6 times. And so while he's teaching theology, and it's really good stuff, he'll teach theology. He'll give these men a semester Bible college education in 1 week, 35 hours. It's really, really good. And it's as good of stuff as I ever got in school. And very, very deep and really excellent. And then they take that material, they go back to the churches that they want to plant and that they're pastoring, and they'll teach that theology to them. And it's very deep. And so I do a lot of my work through him. In fact, there are 6 African countries that we're supporting this year, 91 different church planters from. And then Liberia, we'll do 110 this year in Liberia alone, 50 and then 60. In Uganda, we'll do 40. In Mexico, we'll do 50. There are other countries in Africa. We'll do 2 or 3 per country, depending on what the missionaries had. So I have confidence in the Baptist Bible Fellowship missionaries. I will email them. Don't know them from the man in the moon, but I have confidence in them. They've been there for a long time. I'll email them, tell them who I am, what we're doing, and if they have any church planners that need support, want to start a church, that contact us. And many of them that have men will contact us, and that's how we met John Saliba. And then they make contacts with other men, and we just there's a certain amount of trust. But I don't think it's just blind trust. We have an idea of who they are and what they're doing, and they're veteran missionaries, and it's worked out really well. The nationals are harder on the church planners than I would be. I'd be a bleeding heart. But if they mess up, they'll call me, on FaceTime or Messenger. They'll call me and say, "We're not supporting them anymore. They're a mess. We're going to support somebody else. Take that support and give to another church planter." So they're tougher on them than what I would be, and I don't live there, so I don't know what they're doing anyway. But those men, those leaders, they keep track of everything that is taking place. So in Mexico, if there's 130 churches that we have helped to start, I think 10 of them have failed. And 5 of them died of COVID, so we can't get too mad at them. It wasn't their fault. And in Africa, less than 10 in Liberia that have failed. So when we go over there, we visit every village that we can visit, every church that's been planted in these places, as many as we possibly can. And because I want to see them eyeball to eyeball, pray for them and know who they are. And but these men are being trained by Dr. Snavely, and he does an amazing job. I would recommend you having him. He's a good guy.
Nyla?
Yeah, the only problem that we have had is in Myanmar, old Burma, because they're under a Buddhist military rule, coup, and a civil war going on in that country. A couple years ago, we couldn't get money into them. We send it, I believe, by Western Union. we do bank transfers. We go down to the Mexican market. We do Western Union. We do it by pigeon. Any way we can get it there, we get it there. But because of the unrest in Myanmar, we couldn't get it to them, and so they gave us 2 other places we could send it. So we sent it to one of their sons that lived like in Iowa, and he got it to his father. And then we sent it through another friend, relative in Singapore, and he got it to them. This month we sent it to them by Western Union, so it's opened up again. We did have one problem in Uganda about 4 years ago. We sent the money to this leader's bank account, and there was a lien on it. And I mean, it was like a vacuum sweeper. They took that money as quick as you could blink. But and I told the leaders, I said, he needs to pay that back, and you got to figure out what's going on. And so I think what happened was the missionaries, the American missionaries, and all the church planners, I think, kind of forgave him and said, we're going to not take 1 month. I think that's what happened. They didn't really tell me, but that's kind of what I gathered. So that was the only problem that we had in losing money. And, I think it was $700 or $600, something like that for 1 month. So it wasn't, it didn't bankrupt anybody, but still the point. But I think everyone just kind of ate it and helped the guy out, and they went on. But no. And the neat thing about, and I didn't do this on purpose, but you can give per year. You can give $600 according to the IRS code. You can give $600 taxable, untaxable. So we give $600, so it's not taxable. Here,
It's not reportable.
or reportable. Yeah, it's not reportable. Now, what they do there, I have. It's not reportable. What? Turn this thing off. Get me in trouble. $600 or less is not reportable. So that's a good thing. And then when we send the money to these countries and to the leaders, they're responsible for their own tax liabilities, whatever that may be. But as far as the way I look at it is, it's just a gift. They're not doing anything for me to receive it. We're just giving them a gift, and so they're not they're not incorporated and registered, and they're just meeting out here in the bush with 50 people, preaching the gospel. So it's not a typical church as we think of churches, and so as far as I'm concerned, it's just a gift to them, and it's under $600. But what they do with it is their responsibility, and whatever their whatever their liability is, they have to take care of that.
Bob has a question.
They do have a Bible college called Jake Bible College. He was martyred. He was an American. He was martyred during the Civil War 23 years ago. Many of the churches have their own training centers. We have a guy by the name of Frangley over there that goes into these different towns, and they'll gather. There are probably 5 or 6 different Baptist fellowships that we work with over there. And so they all kind of have their own niche, if you will. And they train them. Bruce Snavely, my partner, he trains them. He'll be there, couple times a year, and he's been doing that for 10 years. So this year, most of them, there was almost 100 that actually graduated because they went through all, I believe it's 12 courses, 12 weeks of theology over the last number of years. And so there are different ways that they're being trained. Some of it's local church, training. But in Liberia, the majority of what we do is through my friend and partner, Bruce Snavely. Most of it is with him. Mexico's a little different because it's a richer country. Even though it's very poor, it's still richer. The missionaries in Liberia that in the 20s and 30s evangelized Liberia was the missionaries out of Cleveland, Ohio, the Baptist missionaries. And so they're the ones that evangelized Liberia. After slavery was over, anyone that wanted to go back to Liberia, America put them on a ship, and our government did, and dropped them off. So they love America. Most of them speak English. Sometimes it sounds like they've got rocks in their mouth, but they're speaking English, and so a lot of different ways that they train. We have a board of 3 individuals. I have 3 ladies that are in the office that take care of all the finances, write all the checks, send all the support. I don't do any of that. I have a daughter that takes care of my newsletter every month. Another lady in the office that takes care of the newsletter for our youth program, Urban Youth Ministry. Monies that come in, they deposit them in the bank accounts. They sign the checks. My assistant of 40 years just retired, and so this last week I signed a few of the checks, which I hate doing because she wasn't there. But for accountability purposes, I just haven't put anybody else on the checking account. There are 3 on the checking account, and so my main assistant has retired. I have another lady that is no longer helping us, but we just haven't taken her off yet. I need to put someone else on that's in the office. But for accountability, I didn't want the same lady that's doing the deposits writing the checks also. So we try to be careful, and I trust them, but anything can happen. So that's how that works. I'm just kind of I told the pastor, I'm just kind of a one-man show. I feel like my spiritual gift is administration. I've always been in administration in whatever I've done over the last 45 years. So I'm an administrator. I don't do a whole lot of things really good, but I'm a good organizer. So I think I do that well. And so I can do a lot of things at the same time just because of being organized. But as far as all the finances, I tell them what needs to be done, and those ladies just do everything. The nationals, they'll send me an email or something on Messenger, or they make a phone call and they say, we've got 60 men, we've got 30 men, we've got 2 men. They make that call, and we trust them to make that call. Well, besides the gift of administration, I have the gift of tongues. I show up at any given time and just speak, and they understand in their language. I am being facetious. If they don't speak English, I always just have a translator. And as many times as I've gone to Mexico, my wife, every time I come back, she says, if you just learn 10 words every time you go, you could speak Spanish. I say, yes, I know, but I didn't do that. I'm lazy, and it's easier to have a translator.
Give you the encouragement to pick up one of the flyers or the forms that he has back there. There are a couple other opportunities that he's presenting as well. The medical ministry in Oaxaca, and there's a form on that, and then also a trip to Israel with Greg and his wife, Kathy. And when is that? Next 24?
March of 24.
March of 24.
We just went in December of last year, took our entire family, our girls, my brother, my son-in-law, just had a wonderful time. Went with another group of about 45. And this will be my 7th trip, be my 3rd time to host it. And I went with a different host in December. And like most preachers, we like being in charge. And so if you're going to go on a trip with me, there's one thing I can promise you. It'll be first class, and you will enjoy yourself. You will enjoy yourself. So for $3,400, you're not going to find a trip anywhere in America for $3,400. And especially with what we're going to, the amenities that you're going to be able to enjoy. And so it cost us more than that back in December. So $3,400. Go and Google Leonardo Tiberias and Leonardo Jerusalem, and they're 5-star hotels. They are gorgeous. So you're not going to stay in anything that's filthy. You're gonna live good. You're gonna eat good. I enjoy life, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I enjoy life, and I enjoy the finer things of life to the best of my ability.
So that flyer is out there as well as the card that tells about Advance. And then I told them this morning, one of the best ways to do it is just go on the website and look at it. He was talking to David, the cooperating groups that they work with, the initiatives that they have, and what they're specifically doing with the youth ministry in Indianapolis and the church planting, and then the ministry opportunities to help planters and servants on the field. So join me, if you would, stand please, and we're going to pray for the ministry, for his travel, for his opportunity to speak to churches like ours and to open doors that the Lord would provide those funds, put it in the right hands, and see souls saved on the field, churches planted, and a ministry that would go on further. And then as well, he talked about a foundation that would be able to do that in perpetuity, just be able to continue to earn funds and to be able to fund churches. And that's a great goal to have, because then once it's in place, it operates, and it goes forward past our lifetime. So, Father, we come to you recognizing your goodness to us as we've heard today. We've recognized it in the Word of God that's been presented, and we've heard it in the testimony of this ministry that is reaching out around the world. And we think of how many folks tonight are represented by it that are serving in places overlooked and unseen, but serving faithfully and ministering to people the gospel and taking the Word of God that they learn, the theology that they hear, and bringing it back to their people so that they can impart it to them, being a messenger in the purest form of taking the Scripture to them. Lord, we pray for all of them that are represented, receiving the support, those missionaries and nationals that are the oversight for it on the field. I pray that you'd give them insight and wisdom, that they would see precisely who is ready to receive that and ready to do a work for you. I pray that you would, again, be with Brother Greg and his wife and their travels and his opportunities to go into churches just like ours, and to find opportunity to redirect those funds directly to missionaries on the field and new servants of yours. I pray that you would cause the work to thrive. I pray that it would be successful and have longevity. I pray that the initiative to begin this foundation that would pay going forward for these ministries and planting churches, I pray that you would keep that funded, allow it to be productive financially, and allow it to be a great help to people, even beyond what we can see in the future. And so we trust you for all these things, and I pray that in our personal lives that we would act on faith, that we would hear from you and listen, and then step out in those areas that we can be ministers of yours. And we look for your blessings in that. Lead us to someone this week that needs the gospel, that needs our compassion, and remind us of it when we meet them, and allow us to have the courage and boldness and timing to do just exactly what you have for us. We ask all these things in the name of your Son.